In 98, I became a police officer for Department of Defense in Puget Sound Naval Shipyard. That's where I kind of started my law enforcement career. I was 21 years old. And I worked there for a couple of years, and then I moved out to the West End out in Forks, and I became a cop in La Push. And that's where I had my first Bigfoot encounter. I was actually coming into work on swing shift that day, and I was driving down La Push Road. Before you get to the reservation, you come to the Third Beach trailhead. And in fact, within a couple hundred yards, there was just tons of people on the beach around the corner. And I'm coming down the hill towards this, and I'm probably like 70 yards when I first see this thing. And then it's just big figure just steps out of the brush, and then it just kind of just glides across the road. It doesn't even look at me, and it took about 4 steps, and it hit the fence, and it disappeared into the salmon berries. When I first saw it, I was a trained observer. I'm a police officer. I'm looking at this giant figure that was like that thick from chest to back. I mean, and huge, 8 feet tall, non-human gait, but humanoid. And I'm trying to classify what this thing is, but it's not real. And I know what it is, but what it is not real.
April 3rd, 1993, I was participating in a military training exercise, and this is an exercise where we use a lot of explosives in our training, utilizing rock quarries. We had 3 explosions to do that day in the morning, and it was shortly after we set the fuses on that third and final blast of the day. We would get in our vehicles, we'd convoy down to a safety staging area, wait for the explosion, and come back and check our work. I was situated as a passenger behind a driver of the second Humvee. As we rounded this one corner, I had a direct line of sight to the second blast site. We came around that corner, I'm looking down there, and there's like these 3 very dark, very large figures standing three abreast of each other, watching us come down the road across the ravine from them. My first thought was, what are those people doing down there? There's not supposed to be civilians in the area. It took less than a second for me to realize what I was looking at were not people at all. The arms of these things went well below their knees, unbelievably long arms, and very broad shoulders, barreled chest, tapered waist. The legs were quite long as well. The one in the middle was, I would estimate, about 9 feet in height. And the 2 that flanked it, left and right, were probably 7.5 to 8 feet. The one in the middle, though, he stood there like a rock, just like a statue. It just did not flinch. But the 2 on either side of this larger one exhibited this behavior where they were shifting weight from foot to foot, and in the process rocking left to right like this. These long arms were swinging in front of their knees, and they did that the entire time I saw them. After say 25 seconds had elapsed, seemed like an eternity, we rounded another corner and I lost sight of them, and just at that I just slumped back in my seat, and I'm just trying to comprehend what I just saw.
July 1st, 2021, I'm in Idaho with my buddy Jim, which you'll see, here's his rig. Anyway, just a couple minutes ago, I saw a huge, giant Sasquatch standing right there. Only saw it for a second or two through the trees as we drove by. Then Jim backed up and he caught a glimpse of it, and then it was gone.
We packed up camp and we started heading down the Forest Service road that follows a creek. And I said to Jim, I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a Bigfoot family standing right in the middle of the road. And we kind of laughed. About a half a mile down the road, I'm keeping an eye on the creek as we're driving real slow, about 15 miles an hour. and I see this huge figure, and I could see these huge shoulders. And I said to Jim, "Stop, I see a huge moose, back up." And I said, I see a huge Sasquatch, back up. And he goes, we backed up a little bit, and he says, "Oh, I see it too." It had stood up, and you could still see the massive shoulders, and the body came in a little bit, and it was just super big and super thick all the way to the water. I think it was standing in the creek. 1 second it's there, and in the blink of an eye, it's just not there anymore.
Really like the outdoors. I've always hunted, fished, camped, done it with my family growing up, being married and having kids, and we do the same thing. Been into archery pretty hardcore since I was about 14 years old. I've seen cougars in the woods. I've seen bear, deer, elk, moose, a lot of smaller game, fox and stuff like that. There's not too many animals in Oregon that I haven't seen. Labor Day weekend 2019. I'd been going over to this particular area in Eastern Oregon for a couple months, since about mid-May. I sat down by this water trough. As a hunter, you're always playing the wind. You always hunt with the wind in your face. So I was set up that night, wind in my face. And I'm kind of sitting there, and off to my left, I just catch a little bit of movement. So I kind of turned my eyes real slow and my head real slow over to look, and I see a head pop out and go right back. And so in my head I thought, oh, it's a hunter, another hunter. But I thought to myself, that's kind of weird. I never heard him come in, and I should have heard him come in. So I just kind of kept staring at that same spot, and then it stuck its head out. And it was what, doesn't exist, supposedly. Bigfoot sticks its head out, stares at me for probably 10 to 15 seconds, and then slowly pulls his head back. I just sat there dumbfounded, like, what in the hell did I just see? These things don't exist. I've been in the woods long enough. I know what I've seen. I knew it was not a bear. Absolutely 100% not a bear. So I sat there for, like I said, probably 5 minutes, just kind of trying to gather my thoughts and get my wits about me.